What's up, everyone? Today we are here with Lindsay Dalton, who is the owner of Inner Alchemy. Lindsay, I've known you for a little while now. You used to do some stuff here, and I started following you on Facebook, and I always really loved your outlook at everything or on everything, and just kind of like finding that happiness, and then your breath working, and then just being so like raw with it on social media,
Mm.
which anyone that can go on social media and be raw with the world, I just appreciate the hell out of that because like I'm the same way and I've always just like, I don't know, poured out my heart and just whatever I'm feeling, I'm going to go ahead and just say it. So I've always loved that. And you do a lot with like capturing what you're doing as well, which I really like that as well. That's something that I've really lacked on my whole career that I've wanted to do. But anyway, just admire what you do, and I love what you do, and I'm super excited to hear more about it all. So
Thank
welcome.
you. I
Yes,
appreciate it so much.
I'm very happy to have you. So kind of, I guess we can just start it off with your main thing that you are doing, or that I see you doing at least, is a lot of breath work
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Yep.
So if you can kind of like put breath work in a frame kind
Mm-hmm.
of and just let everyone know who doesn't know what breath work is,
Yeah.
what is breath work and what is the benefit, what does it do, and how do you do it? And I know those are
Mm-hmm.
loaded questions, but
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. No, that's a great place to start. First of all, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Um, I look at our breath as the most accessible healing tool that we have at any given moment, any second of any day. It's always there. And when we enter the world, when we're born, the first thing we do is take a breath and then we make a sound. And so it's really getting back to the primitive nature of being a human. And it's something that we can also, and collectively, we have become really disconnected from because society has kind of conditioned us to look to the mind to try to solve problems and heal and process. But we really are not taught how to tap into our body and our physiology, and our breath being that direct access point into our body and our wiring, which we'll kind of touch on in a little bit. But um, it is it's our most access direct point. And so I kind of look at the breath and exploring breath work. So breath work, it's like tapping into your own breath, but it's with intention and with more precision than just, okay, let's take a deep breath because I'm feeling stressed out. It's intention and precision. And so kind of separating breath work into two main avenues. This is the way I like to describe it: functional, which is going to be things that you learn on a YouTube video or a guided meditation, or you might learn, it's now being taught in school, like, okay, breathe in and breathe out and breathe in, or it's in a yoga class. So it's really bite-sized breath practices that help you to bring your system down. And so a really common one is going to be like box breathing, which is like in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4.
Mm.
Or in yogic, pranayama, which is just breath work in Sanskrit, basically. That's what that means. Like alternate nostril breathing is really common. And these are all things that I have taught over the years and have practiced over the years. So there's like these bite-sized little nuggets of the breath that we can weave into our day-to-day life to help us to just bring our system down when we need it. Now, on the other avenue of breath work that's not as commonly known, but is what I specialize in, is therapeutic breath work. And so that's where we're going in and we're breathing for an extended period of time, typically in the presence of somebody that is trained to hold space for you, whether it's in a one-to-one setting, it's in a group setting, and the therapeutic approach is going to take you into a deeper state than you can typically access on your own. And the purpose of a therapeutic approach to using the breath for this extended period of time It's to go in and start to mobilize energy that is held within your body and in your unconscious that cannot even be tapped into with the mind. And so this is kind of opening the whole rabbit hole of what regulation is and how to access it. But a therapeutic style of breath work is going to go in and it's going to move old energy that's stagnant. And in that process, you are starting the rewiring system within your body. Yeah.
Well, and that's it's, as you were talking about that, I was reminded when I first started my kind of like spiritual journey of just like self-healing, I was looking up guided meditations, and there was this meditation that I did, and I didn't know anything about what kind of meditation was what and what I was doing. But in the beginning, he had us taking breaths, just simple in through your nose. I think like more of the box kind of style thing, but just in through your nose, out through your mouth, in through your nose, out through your mouth, maybe holding it as well. But, and I was just, and then at the end, he would say, all right, now just be and allow your mind to go, just that kind of thing. And I was doing that for like a week. And then I stopped because I was like, I want something more mystical or something. I want to go on journeys or whatever. But when I stopped, I realized just how good I was feeling after that week. And I was like, because I asked myself, why am I feeling so different now? Because I was feeling great. Now I'm feeling different. And it was brought up to me that that meditation was doing the breath work with it. And then it was kind of emphasized to me that the breath work was really the most important part of that whole meditation.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, I'm going to start doing this more. But for some reason within myself, and I don't know if it's because there's something that's afraid to come up, or if it just takes too much effort, I have no clue. But I cannot for the life of me establish a breathwork routine. But I know if I do, it would be incredibly beneficial. And then one other thing I want to say is my son, he went for he's allergic to peanuts. He was, but I never think he really was, I guess. But his numbers were real high, but I think they were false. And that's intuitively speaking. And then he went for a peanut challenge, and he didn't exhibit any allergic reactions. But when he first ate the Reese cup, his body and himself knew that he wasn't supposed to eat the peanut butter. And that was the first time ever in his life that he ever tasted peanut butter. So his throat got real hoarse and it got real weird, and he could still breathe, but his voice, he couldn't really talk. And the doctor already warned us that his throat is going to feel a little bit weird because it's never had that stuff. So anyway, what I'm trying to get at is they had a therapist come in, and she was like, let's do some breathing real quick. And she was doing like some deep belly breathing and stuff. And I kid you not, like after like 3 or 4 breaths, he started being able to talk again, and his throat, and it was nerves, it was stress, it was anxiety. And like, he was like 4 or something. And for some reason, we didn't think about the anxiety toll that it would play on his body. We thought that he was still too young to realize the dangers, but I guess if you're told something for 4 or 5 years that you can't have it or it could kill you basically, and then you put it in your mouth, that's going to cause anxiety. But just how effective it was.
Yeah, that stored belief that he had. And as a child, children are so malleable, they're just sponges. And so that was a belief that was held within his little body of like, if I eat this, I could die. He may not have put that together that deeply in his brain, but in his system it knew that. And so implementing just the breath awareness and like slowing the breath down, even for him as a kid, was able to signal safety to his system. And that's exactly what the breath can do for us. And like, that's exactly what it does for us on a day-to-day basis. If we learn how to use it properly, is signaling safety to the body. Like, hey, I'm actually not in danger type of thing. I appreciate your thoughts on experiencing breath work in a meditation practice and how you felt that difference and that impact. And I sense that is what many people are missing in a way in a meditation practice when they're trying to develop a practice or just deepen it, is precision with the way you're breathing, because it can drastically affect in a positive way what's going on within your mind body system. to help you slow the brain waves down and drop into that really beautiful altered state of consciousness where the doorway to your higher self, to the subconscious, to your creativity can really start to open when the breath is used with a little more precision. And so I sense that that's kind of what you felt.
Yeah. Well, and do
that.
you feel like when we're bringing in the breath, like, do you feel like it's centering us within our body and it's calming our energy in our body enough to where we are able to be more open, but also more quiet to be able to hear our intuition or tap into our intuition? Or how would you put that?
Yeah, I think for sure. And I think it's layered, definitely, because we're all onions. And the more that we practice things like meditation and regulating practices, the more that we explore breath work. And even if it's just like, we can touch on it and here in a moment, but like this cyclical breathing that I teach, it's just like this in and out. It's not hyperventilating, but it's just this rhythm that you drop into with the breath. You know, when you first start to dabble in this and play around with your breath in a more precise way, you're just like working through the kinks within your system and like getting used to it. And it's really dependent on where you're at, where the individual is at in their journey as well. But the more that you implement it as a practice, the deeper that you can go. And so, yeah, we use it as a tool to ground. But then with some time, what we can start to tap into is, again, this mobilizing of stagnant energy. And so that's why it's really common to, even in an at-home meditation practice where you're tapping into the breath in this cyclical way, like emotion can come up and you have no idea where it's coming from. Mm-hmm. That's an example of lodged energy in the system mobilizing. And we, for sure experience that in therapeutic doses of, experiences as well. And so it's both, and it's, and it also just dependent on what your intention is that day and going into your practice or your journey. Is it to ground? Do I need to ground my energy today, or am I feeling a little sluggish? Like, do I want to bring some energy into my system, okay, some charge into my system? And so this is really like attunement. Attunement is like is something that I teach and something that I've really discovered how valuable it is. It's like an inner skill of attuning to yourself, of like, okay, how am I feeling today? And like, what does my system need? And that can influence what your practice looks like that day. And when I say practice, I just mean like things that help you to stay regulated. Mm. So meditation where you're just breathing real slow, real deep, just body scanning. Or it's, you're deepening that breath, taking it at a slightly faster pace to bring that charge into the system. And then it's like taking a walk or journaling or doing some jumping jacks to bring some of that charge in.
Well, and that's super intuitive what you're talking about as well. I mean, some people think that it's like you have to be this open psychic or just something crazy, but really it's so intuitive if you just stop for a second and say, what do I need today? Or how is my body feeling?
Yep.
And at first you might have all your thoughts or all the crazy energy in your body, but after you do it a few times and you start to get used to checking in, you just really know what's going on there. And I think that it's really cool to look at breath work as like you can do it with intention as well, because like when I think of it, I think of either typically I think of utilizing it to calm or to process.
Sure.
But other than that, I don't really think of it for anything else. When, as what you're saying basically, is it can be used for so many different things. Yeah. And if I'm tired, I can do some breathing and I don't know. I was going to say fire breathing. I don't know why I was going to say fire breathing.
No, for
I don't even know what that is really.
Yeah. Breath of fire.
Yeah. But I just think it's really cool that to think of it in that way. But then lastly, just kind of touching on the check-in and doing that. I think that that's something that we all really need to get used to doing, is checking in and doing something that we feel like we need to do. I used to watch this lady, and she was on like antidepressant pills and stuff, and she was like, I went off of them, and when I did, I started doing little things that I felt like my body needed to do, and I called them my happy pills or happy moments or whatever. And she said, like, if I felt like I needed to go ride in the car with the windows down and sing. That's what I'm going to do. And it just flashed in my head of you dancing in your kitchen, cleaning and
Yeah.
stuff when
Yep.
on the video. And
Yeah.
so like just doing those little things. And for myself, I check in usually every morning. I will check in and say, is there something that I need to do today? But something that that's really noticeable for me is, uh, if I'm not out in nature enough, after like a week or two of not being out in nature, I will start getting this drive to be in nature. And then I have to go, and it's like this reset that happens. So just paying attention to what's going on, I think, is so important to keep
Yep.
you regulated.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it's also like everything that you just kind of touched on. It's about coming out of autopilot. Coming out of autopilot. And there are so many ways that we can get into the mode of being on autopilot, but the word that I use, attunement, like attuning to yourself, like checking in with yourself, that is something that naturally happens the more that you prioritize being just a regulated human. It's like learning to just check in with yourself, and like, your ability to do that is, well, there's this inner signal that's like, okay, I need to get out in nature, because the alternative, it's like I'm starting to get into this like autopilot mode. And it's also, it's a beautiful example of how it's just getting back to the primitive parts of being human, which is something that I talk frequently about too. It's breath is primitive, nature, it's primitive, the movement, the way that our body wants to naturally move, whether it's like primitive movement, like somatic shaking, jumping jacks, jumping up and down, shaking out your body, dancing, like ecstatic dance, right? These are all just ways that we tap into the primitive energy in the body that typically ends up going dormant because of just the fast-paced go autopilot type of life that in society that we live in. And something else as well that came into my mind was the topic of capacity, and how, and this is a whole rabbit hole in itself, but it's a really like fundamental to the topic of regulation and being a regulated person. And and again, our breath being like a direct tool that we can use to start to practice being regulated. But capacity is just how much space you have within your system, your body mind system, to be in a really good centered place. Capacity is, you're able to, no matter what's going on around you, tap into equanimity within your body, within your mind. Like, you're good, like you can communicate, you can make clear, level-headed decisions. And it makes me think about the video you posted of doing the Heimlich on this guy and saving his life. Like, how amazing. But that's because you have, you in your own work have capacity to be able to like stay calm and centered in those really stressful situations, right? And I'm sure you had processing that happened afterwards, right? But which is natural.
I sat down at the table afterwards. I was just telling this story last night. I'm not going to tell the whole story, but like I did it, and the whole ordeal was like a 30 to 40 second thing, maybe a little bit longer. But like after I did it on him multiple times, probably like 8 to 12 times. But then after the last time, and he sat down and he was good, I sat down. I was like, I'm going to eat my food now. And I went to grab it, and I'm like, shit. I was like, my adrenaline.
Yes. And that is even another example, like, not to go on a whole other tangent, but that's called nervous system discharge. That's when we are activated within the system. And so that is one of the healthiest things that we can let our body do after we go through something really stressful and or even traumatic, is to let our body go through this discharging process. Sometimes it's just little bits. And sometimes it's a lot. And so that's also something that is seen in therapeutic somatic work, is that tremoring, because that's the unresolved energy that's been lodged. Finally,
I've seen
moving.
videos of that. I think you've posted of people kind of like doing that.
And it can be scary and I understand for individuals, doing research and looking into this work, like, oh, that's scary, but just important to know that your body's made to do it, and your body will only discharge when it feels like, okay, I'm safe, like the danger is past type of thing. But capacity. So when you have enough capacity, you're able to stay, centered relatively, no matter what's kind of going on within your life, your day-to-day life. And so I think, for those like listening and watching, when I say limited capacity, there are going to be things that kind of come into your mind that you experience in your day-to-day life where, on the surface or on paper, it may not seem threatening, but there's a threat internally in your system, like a meeting you have to have at work and like you're freaking out type of thing, when it's like, there's actually like, there's, your life's not in danger, your job's not in danger, but it's even just having to like speak up and speak your truth and implement boundaries type of thing is so threatening for so many people. That's just an example of how, when something like this is threatening, that's because your capacities, and there's not a lot of room for your system, is our system, our wiring is functioning within this capacity. So clinically it's called your window. And so when our window is limited, there's not a lot of wiggle room for our system to operate and stay centered, right? Without like wanting to pop up way up here out of our window, which is going to be in that fight or flight example. And we all have our own quirks and our own wiring responses based on our past. And so each of us have certain things that happen to us where we get activated, and we're way up here, and it may not seem logical, but that's just how we respond to it. Or we something happens and we shut down way down here outside of our window, and that's going to be in that freeze response, that immobile, that's the primitive play dead response in the body. And so how much or how little capacity you have is going to dictate how easily you shift into, these are called stress responses. How much capacity you have is going to dictate how easily you shift into a stress response, how often and how long you stay there, because you can stay there, and what happens is it starts to feel normal to your body. And so somatic is just Greek for of the body, so body-based healing. There's many different other tools other than the breath, right, that are considered somatic work. But somatic healing is how you go in and you widen the window, how much you have widen your capacity. And I know you have, I'm sure you can reflect back on your journey of your healing and how your capacity is widened. It's a felt thing, but also it's like there's evidence based on, you have certain situations that happen in your life and you respond way differently now than you would have like 10 years ago or however many years. That's because your capacity has widened through healing work that involves you getting out of your head and into the body, into the energy body, the emotional body. But it's so important to know, and I may sound like a broken record to some people if they're watching this that know me, but you cannot widen your capacity with just your mind and with just talk therapy and just reading books and consuming that information. You got to go into your physiology, into your meat suit, your wiring to move the old, and through that process we're rewiring. That's why it takes time to widen that capacity.
Well, and I think a good point to this as well is just the reminder that our body holds like so much that we don't even realize, and it comes out in so many crazy ways as well that we don't even realize. Like for me, back in the past, before I started going down this journey, I had anxiety, and I'm on anxiety medicine and all that, and but it wasn't anxiety of the mind. Like my mind was fine. I never was like dwelling over things. I never was dealing with any of that kind of stuff. It was always my body was tingling, or because the reason I went to the doctor is I woke up in the middle of the night and my whole body felt like it was like tingling and like just like, and then I would go to bed, wake up, and I would feel the same thing. And they're like, oh, that's anxiety, and here's medicine or whatever. But what I'm trying to get at though is it would always show up in my body and not my mind. And I never knew why until I got into this realm of things. And I was like, okay, it makes sense that my body's holding on to a bunch of stuff. And then the issue is our minds, what we might try to figure out, like, why is my body feeling a certain way? And we might not even be able to tap into it from the surface level where we're at right this second. So maybe some breath work to get like more centered, or some meditation to try to get more quiet in the mind, or whatever. But and then ultimately there you find out that there is a root. And there's been many times where I'm like, I feel this, I don't know why, I can't figure out why, and then I kind of just scratch it and say I'll figure it out another time. But then months later, I'm doing some kind of healing journey, and then it comes up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the root, and I never even would have thought that was it. And then I do some processing around that, and no matter if it's breath work that I do around it, and I know I have no training in breath work, so any breath work that I do is just intuitively led breath work. But I either do that, or I do some like energy healing, or I do something, some cord cutting, or some, I don't know, whatever. But I just think that that's important to remember, is that our body is holding on to so much stuff that we don't even freaking realize. And that's where I believe at least somatic work comes into play. And I think breath work and somatic work are like hand in hand pretty much, like meaning they complement each other very, very well. What's your experience been with that?
So I look at it like somatic, it's an umbrella. Like talk therapy is an umbrella where there's like CBT and parts work and these different little like approaches that talk therapists take as an umbrella. And then the other umbrella to healing is somatic work. And under that umbrella is breath work. Under that umbrella is Reiki. Under that umbrella is body work. Right?
Makes sense.
And so clinically what this is, it's either top down talk therapy and the umbrella, and or bottom up somatic work. And so that has been really supportive in my journey of like, oh, okay, cool. And so, but breath work was really was yoga, was like the opening, the door to open into somatic work for me. But breath work was really where it just took off. And then I started studying other somatic techniques. But
did you train in yoga, or did you just do yoga?
So I'm a teacher. So I taught for many years up in Dayton.
Nice.
Had a really beautiful, successful career teaching yoga up there, and loved it so much. But life naturally just took me elsewhere, and I'm glad it did. So now I just practice yoga on my own. But I feel like there's so much I want to touch on at once. When you were touching on experiencing anxiety, and I think this is just so applicable to so many people because we don't understand it, and in a way, like there's so much to the body that we experience, like feelings and sensations and responses that we're not even obligated to understand. Like the body's not obligated to make sense to the mind. The body's just trying to just like protect you and sound the alarm, but sometimes the alarm sounds and it's like a false alarm, which is anxiety in many cases. But there's this sensation and this feeling that was arising right when you were in bed. And what happens is this energy gets activated in the body, and what it's seeking is to just create completion, but it can't because it doesn't know how, and so it loops, and then it'll settle, but then like something will trigger it, and again, it doesn't even make sense, but it'll settle, and then it's just this like incomplete cycle that happens. And so within body-based healing, whether it's breath work, energy healing, other modalities, we're going in and we're bringing that energy up, we're moving it, and we're creating completion. That's putting it really simply.
Right.
And it's creating completion. It's bringing acknowledgement maybe to something in the past where you didn't have capacity, or you did never acknowledge it, or sometimes it's just stored energy. We don't know what it is that just moves, and we create completion. So it's this moving, it's this releasing is what helps to retrain our body how to not live in this anxious state.
Real quick, I just want to say something about that. I feel like sometimes people try to overcomplicate processing like traumas or blockages or things in our body. And I think that sometimes just the acknowledgement, or I found that a lot of the times just the acknowledgement of why that trauma is there, or why that blockage or that energy or whatever is stored there, just that acknowledgement and the intention of moving forward out of it or to work on it or whatever, it naturally starts to heal whatever that is, at least for me and
Yep.
many others that I've seen. Do you feel the same way with that?
Yeah, awareness.
Mhm.
Awareness is like the starting place. Um, Awareness isn't always enough for sure, but the awareness is what can really kick off the healing process
I guess
for
I would
sure.
say the awareness, then it leads you to the like, or at least for me, it leads me to where I need to heal. Like if I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I feel like I have this trauma or this blockage or
Uh-huh.
whatever, and then I acknowledge it and I'm aware, I would say aware of it, and then another couple of weeks I might be led to do some inner child work or something, or I might be led to do some breath work or something like that, or yoga or any of that, and it naturally like starts to heal because I'm doing those type of things. But I guess if someone's working with someone like you, they can, I mean, I guess you can accelerate it a little bit and kind of move into ways to complete the
Mhm.
process and stuff
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're a great example of how, you tune into yourself, you have awareness like, ooh, something's here, or ooh, I feel called to do, dig into this a little bit. And what you're an example of, and this is something I practice as well, is like what that is paired like the embodiment. So then you actually have the drive and the capacity to then go and do the thing, do the
Mm-hmm.
healing, face the demons, face the shadows, right? um Knowing that it's a lifelong journey, because we'll only ever be able to go as deep as our body's ready to, um which is a beautiful thing, that it's a lifelong journey. But that's where, like, when you're new to healing work, when you're new to, and also too, like, I like to explain and share this work, and let it be practical and realistic too, for people that are not woo woo.
Mm-hmm.
This is science, it's regulation work. When you're new to it, that's where it's going to take some some healthy discipline and some getting out of your own way. And so that's why, for example, I invite people that I work with that are new, like, let me hold your hand for just a little bit. Like, let's make a game plan so I can hold your hand, because you're going to need it. I
Mm-hmm.
needed it. And that's not because there's any brokenness or anything wrong with people. It's just because when your system has been set and your capacity has been set at a certain place for so long, your system is going to fight tooth and nail to keep you right where you are. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
where we experience resistance in life and in our journey, right? But so that's where that healthy discipline is really required. And what's rooted in that, beneath that, is love for yourself. Like, you gotta really tap into why and like what your driver is. And so there's so many layers to this, but something
Mm-hmm.
that's been really supportive for me with tapping into that is just staying connected to both my inner child and my future self. Those are like drivers when the self-love gets cloudy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm doing it for little me, but then also, like, let's do the future self. Like, I used to do a lot of future self visualization work when I was in a really really challenging period of my life, and that was like game changing. And then your relationship with something greater than yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Universe, source, God, spirit guides, whatever that may be, your ancestors, um, kind of make up this concoction to help you stay connected to this love for yourself that's a driver in all of this.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think that if you can, touching on the love for yourself, I think that that's like the number one thing that you have to have is just that ability to be able to find that love, that ability to just be, I guess, because there's certain layers to that as well. So, but just we'll just leave it at the. It is good to get to tap into that love, and I think that um, I don't know. From there, the rest kind of, I don't know. It just becomes easier, basically. Something actually that I was going to ask you really quick is uh, because I also bounce back and forth between the woo woo world and the physical or
Yeah.
regular world or whatever,
Yeah.
mainstream,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. And because I want to be that bridge for people there. But when it comes to breath work, what does that do on a physical level? Like we've talked about, it opens up like our intuitive space and all that, and helps us dig deep. But when you're getting that extra oxygen and stuff, what is that doing to you on a physical level?
Yeah. Oh, there's so much. I go to the brain, and it modulates the brain waves. And so basically it slows your brain waves down. And that is a fundamental part of the process. Think of it like, and this is not this black and white, but this is kind of a way that I've looked at it to understand it. And like, it clicks for me is, where brain waves are in a faster state, we're analytical, we're going, right? And so slowing the brain waves down is one of the things that starts to slow the system down, which is, a part of the process of then signaling down into the brainstem, which is like the start of the nervous system, which is our wiring. So the brainstem then runs down the spine. The vagus nerve, it's actually a bundle of like a really thick rope, a bunch of nerves, but it's really thick, runs down the spine, and that's like the hub of our wiring. And then that vagus nerve down the spine branches out into the body like tree branches, and that's the nervous system. And so that is what's being what we're working with when we do any sort of breath work. And so again, it's the base is just signaling via the nervous system and the brain, and the brain and the nervous system, safety, like, hey, down the vagus nerve. And so there's other ways to do this. Humming is one that we see a lot in the somatic world, is to signal this like really soothing vibration down the vagus nerve into the body. But so we're signaling safety there. And, that's kind of the gist of it when we use breath in this really just functional. So like these little doses of breath awareness and slowing the breath down. But then therapeutically, when we use our breath in this extended dose, so I'm talking like 40 plus minutes where you're breathing in this really specific way, it starts to deactivate this region of the brain, which is your prefrontal cortex. This is the part of your brain that's like making choices and scanning the environment and predicting. Ego. We turn it down, and then activation comes down into the primal lower regions of the brain. Your emotional centers in there as well. There's a lot there, but that's like, I call it your filing cabinet. We start to bring activation into that region, down the into the nervous system. And that is what starts this process of, we say, okay, all right, nervous system, all right, primal brain, what do we want to mobilize today? And that's kind of what starts that process of this deeper therapeutic work. And that I had a thought, but it left my brain. So yeah.
That happened to me a few minutes ago. Well, and so kind of, we've talked a lot about breath work. We've talked about somatics. Do you have anything else that you want to say about somatics? Because I want to ask you about your Reiki that you do as well. But do you have anything you want to touch on with somatics before we move to that? And just maybe
I do actually remember what I was going to say, and this I think is like what's top of mind.
Okay. That's
also like, I think, really important for collectively for individuals to know. That was really supportive for me. When you start to do deeper healing, and this is I sense why it's easy to avoid, is because you think like, I'm gonna have to relive all my shit, I'm gonna have to relive it in order to heal it. And that is just not true. Sometimes, and you touched on this earlier, sometimes when we do a healing journey, we, whether it's breath or energy work, right, meditation, memories will come up or unresolved emotions come up, and we know what the root is. We know what it's tied to, and there's this beautiful sense of resolution that we can create. But often, so often in this type of healing, sensation moves in the body, energy moves in the body, the trembling comes through, the discharge comes through the body as we bring activation in. Movement that's like involuntary, like a fight or flight being completed in the body, like when you were a kid and something happened to you and you couldn't run away, and now you're an adult doing this type of therapy, your legs will kick and like, I'll say like, hey, your legs were doing this, and they're like, they were type of thing. And that's the body completing that traumatic residue, right? So these are experiences of and examples of how you don't have to relive it. Like nothing's going on up here, and that's really common when the body is moving this energy. And so I say that as encouragement of like, it's not about inflicting pain and reliving your it's like a release. It's like, that's what this is about.
Yeah, and a couple things I want to say is, number one is you were talking about this a few minutes ago, and I forgot what I was going to say, and now I remember. But it is really hard to, like you said, you can hold their hand and help them in the beginning, but like it is really hard to put yourself in a place of saying, I am going to face this stuff, or I'm going to do this thing. And like how I was saying, it's so hard for me to establish a breathwork routine or whatever, and I contribute that to maybe there's something there that I haven't faced yet that I don't know. But also I think that having someone there to hold you accountable or to help remind you of what you need to do, I think that it's invaluable, honestly. And I think that a lot of people have even if they don't have a lot of ego, and it's not necessarily like you're an egotistical person, it's just your ego comes through and they think that I'm fine, I can do it myself, I'm ready to do this journey. But then like a week or two in, your body starts making, or your mind starts making excuses of why you shouldn't do what you're doing, or why it would be easier to just do this, because it's trying to protect you, because it doesn't want you to face that thing, because they know it's going to be a hard thing or whatever. So I think that's a good point to make. And then also, the last person I had on the podcast, she was doing somatic stuff as well, and she was talking about that completion of the flight or fight mode. And I just found that really fascinating, because I never really thought of it that way. So like thinking of completing that, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And being able to go into breath work and go into a place where your body is just automatically doing that, it's a really crazy thing to be able to do, but also to facilitate and see when people are doing that stuff. So
yeah. And also too, it's important to know that these responses when you're doing this healing, it's not the sign of you're doing it right. I have many individuals, and myself included, who did a therapeutic somatic journey, and we're using breath, we're using movement. I teach tapping on the body, physical touch on certain areas, chakra work, right? Body, applying pressure on the body, processing anger by pressing on the body. Sometimes sessions are just you're just laying there, and that is where you're just like being with yourself and your breath and your body, and like whatever's arising in your reality. And that is just as powerful, because there's no distractions, like, and having a facilitator there to help you stay with it. And because even with that, you're creating internal safety within your system, with like, okay, I'm going to be with what's arising moment by moment. I'm not going to abandon myself. And that is really a fundamental to the healing process.
I think it's important to have someone that you trust there facilitating it as well. So I don't know, I think that's really cool. So we've touched on a lot with that, and I'm curious on, do you integrate your Reiki, and did you just get certified, or has it been a while? I can't remember.
Yeah, so with Reiki specifically, I got certified in November.
Do you feel like you were already using like some sort of energy healing already?
Yeah, so I was trained in, this is like a long-winded answer, but I won't give the long-winded answer. The style of somatic healing that I am trained in, I started studying it in 2022. My teacher's Australian, but lived in South America for some time studying. This style of somatic healing that I'm trained in, a fundamental part of it is energy work, but it's more of this shamanic style of energy work. And so that's the short answer. And so it is different than this, the traditional Japanese style of Reiki, right? So it was something that I was trained in. So just a different form of energy work. And that happened, went through that 2022, 2023 period. So
it's
yeah,
all one and the same pretty
totally,
much.
totally. And it's all intuitive too, in so many ways.
Well, I've seen videos of you, like with someone laying on the ground. I've seen many videos of like someone on the ground, and you're like either, like you just mentioned, tapping, or you're like pulling stuff out. And for me, I see energy very well. So like, not that I'm looking at the energy in the video, but I can see or sense exactly what you're doing, and I'm just like, that's perfect. Like this, and you see the person reacting to what you're doing in a sense, and you can just, I don't know, it's really cool. So I was like, already, I thought you were, or I guess you were since 2022, but you already were doing energy work, basically, is what I'm saying. And then you started doing Reiki. Are you, and I think, and for anyone that doesn't know, I'm a Reiki master teacher at this point, and I think that Reiki, I have seen miracles with Reiki, like legit miracles, and it's just one of the coolest things ever. Whereas I'm sure you've seen miracles with the line of work you do. And if you can bring both of those together, it's like, I mean, you're just facilitating, and it doesn't have to always be a miracle, but you're just facilitating an amazing space for people. Have you, you said November, is that when you said? Have you been utilizing it? Like, are you, I guess, let me ask it this way. Are you doing your Reiki sessions separate from your breath work, or are you integrating it into your breath work, or is that something that you plan on doing, or what's your plans?
Yeah. And this was, I went in when I started my Reiki certification process. I had no expectations of like, I'm going to weave this into what I'm already doing. It just naturally happened that way. I do offer standalone Reiki sessions for people that are just called to just that, right? Because therapeutic breath work, and these deeper somatic experiences are not for everybody. And there's also contraindications to the deeper somatic work, like if you have, like if you're pregnant, for example, right? Whereas Reiki is more applicable to, someone that's pregnant, right? So I do offer it standalone, but naturally and this is just me personally, weave it in because I already was and have been, integrating energy work into my work. And so, for example, and you'll understand what I mean, like chakra balancing, that's something that just naturally, especially towards the end of a session, is naturally something that I started to do. Just to tune in and support the individual. Yeah.
Well, and I think there's been many times when I've been doing a Reiki session where I'm telling them, all right, actually, I'll start with saying this, where I'm not telling them anything and I'm removing something from a chakra, and they start taking breaths and like releasing intuitively. And after the session, I'll let them know, and I'll encourage them, because I think it's important for people to know what they were doing, and let them know, I was removing some stuff or some gunk or whatever in your chakra, and you started doing some deep breathing, and it was really helping to release that. So in the future, intuitively, if you ever feel like you need to do that deep breathing during a session or just in life in general, do it. But I think you and your experience with breath work, it's not that you're going to have them do some intense breath work on the table, but you can definitely help lead them through breathing if they need to, because this was the first thing I was going to say. There's been times when I've got onto a chakra and there's something in there that I'm trying to remove, and I need them to breathe to help get it out. I need their assistance. The same as if I need their permission to remove something or whatever. But and there's times where I'm like, all right, I need you to take a few deep breaths in and out or whatever. And I think that your training could help you be able to utilize that as well. So I think that's really cool. How have you, you can answer that, sorry, but how have you liked How have you been liking the Reiki? How's
Mm-hmm.
it been sitting with you as well?
Oh my God. So I did level 1, level 2 back to back. It was like in a package certification type of thing. And my attunements were, it was, everyone responds differently, but when you go in and have that attunement done, and I felt just the old shit moving in a way that I hadn't experienced before. And so it was just, it was incredible. Very
It
healing.
really is. Yes.
Wild. But it's just been so fun and beautiful. It's an honor and a privilege to hold space for people in this way. And I love it, but it has been fun to, when somebody does come in just for Reiki, I'll start with breath. We'll do some slow, deep breaths, and I'll have them connect into their breath. And I play with some visualization work to help them just like drift into this kind of like la la land type of state, and this daydreamy creative type of state. And then I'll start to work on them. And so it's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that you did it, and I think that it already has, but will also open up some more stuff for you in different ways. So that's really cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
Something else, because I know we are a little bit limited on time with this one, but something else that I wanted to touch base with before, to make sure I touch base with you before we run out of time, is just kind of how you have found, or what would you say is like the key to finding your own happiness and things like that. And the reason I asked that is because you do talk a lot about just like, don't ever settle. And no matter if that's a relationship or if it's a job or if it's just anything in life, like just don't settle and do what makes you feel happy. And I see you travel a decent amount, and you go to different like concert things, things like that. And I just think that it's a really great thing. So, and you seem like you're in a very good place, I guess, is what I would say. So for anyone watching, and I know it's a very big question, but what would you recommend to get into a happy place or a good place like that, or a regulated place?
Yeah, such a good question. And the main answer really goes back to capacity. But before I briefly touch on that, my life put me in these situations as I grew into adulthood that really like put into perspective of how precious life is. Like, oh my God. And we could have a whole podcast on that itself. Maybe we can have a part 2.
Definitely
about childhood stuff. But like, just I was put into these situations and like, life is really precious. And so that has been like, don't take it for granted. And that's been a driver for me. But what has been also a huge driver just in adulthood is prioritizing inner work that helps me to stretch my capacity. And so what I mean by this is I used my hands earlier, like this, our window, our capacity is limited. Now, when we do the work, and again, you got to get out of your head to do this. You have to get into the body, and just normalizing that in your life. We expand it. Now, what are we making space for? Like, we're going in and like moving some our shadows, right? What's stuck, what's stagnant. We're making space for more joy. We're making space for more joy. We don't realize how limited we can become when we're holding on to so much excess garbage in our system from our past. And it's not to no one's fault. It's just like, we're not taught how to heal in this really holistic, effective way. And so there's no room. It's like I use the analogy of a suitcase. It's like a suitcase that is like busting at the seams with all these old clothes that need to go and be donated, or like it's ratty, it needs to be thrown away, right? We got to go and we got to make room. So there's room for new, right? And that's personal to the individual, but new and aligned and like healthy. But that also means joy and happiness. And so I have just been so grateful for the journey of making space for the joy, and meeting yourself really deeply, like really targeting head on, shame that that you carry, and this inability to be vulnerable with yourself, and fear that's held in the body, like liberating yourself from these things. Oh my God, it's like, it's liberation. And on the other side of that is courage to pursue things that light you up. It's capacity to pursue things that light you up. And um and that's really it.
Well, and I think that like something for me has been like not being afraid to try something new, and like not being afraid to leave something behind either. And I mean, and sometimes it's easy to leave something, and sometimes it's really hard to leave something or someone. And moving forward and taking leaps, sometimes it's easy, and then sometimes it's really hard as well. Like me creating or starting a podcast. Well, that was a very easy thing. Just got all the stuff, did it. I was like, what's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to have some great conversations, and that's the end of it. But then, I've been in situations where it's like, I need to quit this job in order to make room for a better job or to do something better in life. And that's a big one, because you don't like, and for me at that time, I had my wife and I had like a 6-month-old. So it's like, I can't not provide. And she was a stay-at-home mom. So it's like, I have to provide. And I had a really good job at the time. But just having, and then I guess going way back in the conversation, having that connection with yourself, with God, universe, whatever the heck it is for you, and having that faith that you're being led to this, to thinking about this decision for a reason. Because if you like look at life, you can go every single and I'll use the podcast for another example with this, is like, I've had so many people tell me that I should do a podcast because I like to talk. I tell stories a lot, and every time someone ever asks, I'm like, it's probably maybe something I'll do eventually, but I'm not right now. I don't really feel like it. So I never felt lit up about it. It never felt like something I wanted to do. But then a few months prior to me starting, or a month or two prior to me getting ready to do the podcast, I had no clue I was going to, but I started making time in my schedule, and I didn't know why, but I was like opening up time for myself, and I'm like, don't know why I'm doing this, but maybe I just need to spend more time with my family, even though I spend a ton of time with my family. That's my priority in life.
Yeah.
But like, then that one day, my wife said, I had a conversation with a friend, and I was talking to her about it. And then my wife was like, have you ever thought about, or she said, I know you've thought about it, but have you recently thought about doing a podcast again? And I was like, nah, I mean, honestly, I don't really. But then like my body lit up and my heart was like, you need to do this. And I was like, and literally that's when I was like, nah, I mean, not really. I actually, I don't know. Maybe and like by that night I had my Facebook page, my Spotify, my Apple podcast, my like everything set up and ready. I had all the cameras ordered and just everything I needed. And that's just a good example of like number one, listening to your body and having a good relationship with your body in general, because and this can be loose in some situations, but my rule is I listen to how I feel in every situation. Now, there's a whole other subcategory there of where I feel like I have to listen to, or I had to figure out what feeling is anxiety, or what feeling is from an emotional place, and what feeling is from my intuitive space saying you should do this. But I don't, like, people think if you are in tune with your spirit guides and stuff that you have to go in and meditate and like talk to them to get answers. And you can, but like, I don't a lot. And I do talk to them a lot, but if I'm needing guidance in life, I listen to my inner compass. And like, and I always use the example of like, if my compass is going, let's just say this way, if it's going this way and I turn that way, I still feel the compass going that way, and I know I should be going that way. And by making that capacity or creating that capacity, or however you want to phrase that, and listening to your body, you can then allow yourself to go in those directions. And honestly, when you make that decision of like, I'm going to live a better life, and I'm going to better myself, and I'm going to make room for the good things, and that really is something that happens. And I didn't look at it from the way that you looked at it. I looked at it as like, I am making room for things, but I didn't look at like the capacity and stuff
It's very
like that.
clinical. Like this is just, it's just knowledge, right? But it's because it's just a way to explain the nature of healing.
Right. Well, and I think it's a
Yeah.
great way
Mm-hmm.
to put it. And like when I started letting go of old friends or letting go of old habits, or I mean, I used to drink every beer like every Friday and Saturday up until 4 in the morning with my friends. Great time, but like we're going out to bars in my younger years, and it's like, but now I don't, and I'll drink every once in a while,
Yeah.
but like I'm not that, and I let that go, and that made room for better things. Or I guess what I would say is as I've moved through my years, I have realized that when you do leave something behind, like I guess I'll say it like this: there is a capacity, like really there is a capacity, and when you've reached that limit, your life's going to stay the same. But then if you either grow the capacity or you take some things out, it does allow to make room for new things. And that's why people say like when things are falling apart and your car's breaking down or this or that,
Yeah.
you're everything's crumbling to make room for better things.
Yes.
So that's my
Yeah.
long-winded thoughts on that as well.
Totally.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
Totally. Yeah. No, I appreciate the intuition piece as well. Like it's just the more that you just lean into trust, and sometimes I describe it like it's a bit of a trust fall sometimes
Mm-hmm.
in life. Like I'm sure starting this business, right? This brick and mortar, that's a trust fall. Starting even
Yes.
just a little trust fall of a podcast, right? But the more that you lean into these intuitive nudges, sometimes they're quiet and risky, and sometimes they're loud and obvious, and like, yeah, that's a full body yes. But the more you do it, the stronger that connection gets, and the easier it is to like follow the compass,
And it's
even
a
if it doesn't
trial
make
and
sense.
error.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the beginning stages, you're going to feel like you should do something and you should listen to that. As long as it's not something bad, but like you should listen to what you feel like you want to do. And if it works out, then great. If it doesn't, there's two parts to that. It either could have been something that you needed to experience for some reason that we don't understand, or maybe that decision was made based off of emotion. But my opinion on that is the universe knows that you're going to make that decision based off of emotion. So everything is just in divine time and divine, it's just in a divine way. So I don't know. I think that allowing yourself to listen to your intuitive self is very important, but you can't do that unless if you do some, I mean, you can always listen to your intuition, but it gets much easier when you do start to slow down or you do start to allow yourself to tune in. and
Mm-hmm.
and like you said, it the more you do it, the more it grows, and the trial and error stuff happens where you realize I feel like I made this decision based off of emotion, and maybe I need to listen to my intuition more, or the little voice more, or whatever. But I think ultimately it will work out. And one last thing I'll say is with that faith that the universe or God or whatever has your best interest at hand. So no matter where you go, it's for your benefit. No matter what thing happens, it's for your benefit, no matter if it is bad. And that's very hard for a lot of people to um, comprehend or accept, and I completely get that. But I fully think everything happens for a reason, and then you end up where you're supposed to be. For example, like starting the Sin of Real and Integration, I walked in this building and had zero. I had one person that was going to come and pay me $200 a week or a month for a room. That was it. That was all I had, and I had 9 rooms that I needed to fill to even make this work. And I didn't want to look at it as needing to fill anything. I was like, I want to create this healing center and so on. But what I'm trying to get at is I stood in the lobby after I walked around. I kind of got lost at first. I was like, man, this is crazy. But I stood in the lobby and I was like, what in the hell am I doing right now? And my mind was like, what in the hell are you doing? But my body was like, what in the hell are you doing? Like, but there was a good feeling behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And after a month, the whole place was filled, and with practitioners, and it was just amazing atmosphere, and it was just really awesome. But if I didn't take that leap, if I didn't listen to my intuition, if I didn't allow myself to listen to that compass, then it wouldn't have happened. The same
Mm-hmm.
way, people that are living a happy, good, awesome life wouldn't be living that if they wasn't listening to their intuition and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's this element of like also like not having a plan B.
Mm-hmm.
That's really powerful, and it's nuanced. Like everyone's in a different situation, but even if like you have you have a family, right? You have to provide, you have to have a stable income, right? But you have this dream on the side. It's like you can still know that that dream is going to be fulfilled and be successful because you don't have a plan B inside. And so again, it's like dependent on the situation, but that's something that's been really supportive for me that I like to encourage people to. It's like, where can you dial in and really put your blinders on? Even if it's with your healing, like if you had this belief, there's no plan B, like healing is inevitable. Healing is inevitable. Like if you had that belief, how would you show up, and what choices would you make day to day? But yeah, the topic of God and higher self and higher power, that's a whole rabbit hole in itself. But that has been something that is fundamental, and it is connected to inner guidance and something like pulling us along even through unknown. And that's been something that I have navigated through. It's been so like volatile, my relationship with a higher power. It's been all over, but life continuously brought me back to this. No, like there is something greater than you that is with you, like every second of every day, that's supporting you. And the more that I surrendered to that and opened up to that, it's just like it just blessed me in ways that I couldn't have ever anticipated. It's been huge.
I remember when I first came to that realization, it was like, I don't know, just one of the most amazing moments of my life to really feel that comfort of knowing that there really is something or someone or some energy or something that is with me at all times, making sure that I'm safe, making sure that I'm being guided into the right direction. And that feels super supportive. And from that moment on, it was just like, I know that I'm supported, I know that I'm good, and I trust that. And I used to have like anxiety of like, what if I die earlier with and I have my kids or whatever. And like, but then just moving into that, I just know that, or I trust that everything's going to be good and everything's awesome. But having that I think in meditation last night, I hold a weekly meditation here, but we were meditating, and we actually went in and talked to Jesus last night. So we were like talking with Jesus, and we'll talk with Buddha. Well, I mean, all the different things, but and Jesus was just like, he was just basically the message I got was just one of the messages is that everybody needs something to like grasp onto, and if you don't have something to grasp onto, or like some kind of faith or something to lean onto, not grasp onto, but lean onto, you can get really lost and you can get really stagnant and you can just be in a not so good place. And that's why like the church has its place. I'm not necessarily a church goer. I don't go to church, but like and I have my own opinions about that, but I have no any feelings about anybody that goes and does it. Everybody needs a little something, but I think, and that's why like some like drug addicts or people that are living a really hard life, they find Jesus or they find God or whatever they find, and then it brings them out of it. Because I think establishing that supportive connection, but also having that faith that something has your better, your highest good in their interest. I can't think of what I'm trying to say there. But when you realize that, then it just makes life so much, I don't know, easier, I guess, in a way.
Yeah. Richer, right?
Yeah.
Makes life richer. Like it really does. And it is an anchor when you need it. Through hard times or through easy times too. Like it's
birds hit these windows more than anything.
Oh my God. That's so funny. And that's also what's important to remember too. It's like having a connection to your higher power and to yourself, and like this really rich relationship with both helps you to something that my mentors say a lot, master the mundane. It's like mastering and like being more present, like enjoying each day. and the mundane parts of your day. It's like, instead of um, going from one thing to the next and rushing or like dreading, right? It's no, like, let's just enjoy what the day holds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and last couple things I'll say before we start to kind of wrap it up is just life is beautiful, like you mentioned before, and life is meant to be, I mean, for the most part, like an enjoyable experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that uh, we can have an amazing life. And I think that just for anybody watching, it's just important for them to hear those words and understand that their life can be amazing. No matter where the heck you're at, you can have an amazing life. You just have to, it's not that you have to like do this complicated healing
Right.
process. Like, just, you need to just set that intention, and you need to, in each situation in life where you, because you have a choice in everything, make the choice that makes you feel um, the best, and you know that is in your highest and best interest, basically. And when you do that, your life will just magically or naturally
Mm-hmm.
get better, and your vibration rises, your capacity widens, and you're led to the healing, and you'll get there, basically. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, when I got into my journey, I was living but I was living the automatic life. Like, just everything was just on auto drive. Went to work, came home, did this, did that, and then went out on the weekends, and that was kind of the end of it, and right back at it again. And then I broke out of that, and it really is kind of like breaking out of the matrix in a way. So it's like breaking out of that programming, and once you do, you realize that it's just an amazing journey.
Yeah, it's accessible to every human. Like, it doesn't matter what house you live in, what car you drive, what clothes you wear, where you live. It doesn't. It's an inner job.
Mm-hmm.
It's an inside job.
I agree.
Yeah.
And once you become kind of back to that love, once you start to find love for yourself, and that being okay with yourself, because there's a lot of people out there that like need a bunch of people around all the time, or and it's okay as well, but like being okay with just being by yourself is a superpower, in my opinion. And like, I
Mm-hmm.
love going out uh, to the woods by myself, or I go to Serpent Mound a lot. I like going to Serpent Mound, just all the stuff, and I like being within myself. And but I guess with that, I never feel like I'm by myself. I feel like I
Yeah,
have
it's
like
not
a whole
lonely.
team. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not at all.
No.
So I had Patricio on my podcast. He's a good friend of mine, but just super interesting person. But he was saying he's
Is he a tattoo artist? I think
yes,
I saw that in passing. Cool.
yeah, that was a great interview as well. But he is in training to become a shaman right now, and he, like, his daughter's in like another country, and his girlfriend and him broke up, and it's just like
Yeah.
he's at a place where he was like, I just feel lonely. And he said he was saying that to his shaman, the person training him, and she was like, she said, well, I forget the exact quote, but basically, do you feel, or you see the trees out there, you see like the animal, you see God and all that stuff, like, you're, if you truly believe that you're connected to all that, you're never alone. And in for someone that isn't going to take the steps to really like take that in and integrate that, it might just be a surface level quote that's like, oh yeah, cool. But for him, he's like, wow, like that does make sense. And now he is connecting to the trees, he is connecting to animals, nature, and God, the universe. And he is like, I never am alone, and I feel the same exact way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It's all spirit. Everything has spirit in it. We
Yeah,
can connect into it anytime we need it.
I
Yeah.
agree. Well, I will. We'll go ahead and start wrapping it up, because we're running a little low on time. So I appreciate you coming on. Is there anything that you would like to tell anybody, like anything that you have coming up, and can you tell them how they can get a hold of you, and your website, all that
Yeah.
stuff?
Yes. So my website is inneralchemybreathwork.com. I'm active on Instagram, and it's just my name, Lindsay Dalton. You can find me there. I do a monthly newsletter where I just pop in and share like group classes that I have going on, and you can jump on that on my website. Um, But I do almost every single month do have a group class. So most of the time I have a group class over on the east side at Mojave East, which is a wedding venue actually, but I do a full therapeutic breathwork journey in a group every month, and then it's paired with my dear friend who's a sound healer. Really, really magical. And then I'll periodically kind of do like special pop-up events. Like I'm doing a spring equinox class first week of April, and then I do one-to-one work. That's kind of my bread and butter, where I can be really precise with people and really support them with where they're at. My office is downtown Cincinnati. And just reaching out about one-to-one work is just done on my website as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing you continue to grow in your trainings and in your business and just in your presence.
Likewise. Thank you.
Yes, I appreciate it. And we'll definitely chat again sometime.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for coming.